Hello and welcome to Watch and Code Office Hours session number 70. My name is Gordon. I'm the founder at watchandcode.com, and I run these sessions every week just to help you and make sure that you never get stuck when going through lessons at Watch and Code. So a lot of people that are doing online courses or just have this like very great fear of getting stuck and then never being able to progress when you hit a bug or get confused about something. So I just want to make sure that that fear is not here if you're a Watch and Code student. So just a couple logistics before we start. This is a direct one-to-one, like you ask me a question, I answer you directly kind of thing. So if you want to ask a question, you should call in to the Google Hangout. So the way you can do that is the call-in link is right here, and you can find this document on the YouTube description. So the underneath the video in the description section, you'll find this document, and then you'll get this link right here. So you should call in if you want to ask a question. Second thing is just to stay updated with changes or anything. Sometimes during holidays, office hours occasionally might change or be rescheduled and stuff like that. So if you want to keep up to date with that and just other different announcements about Watch and Code, then you'll want to join the Facebook group right here. So that's it for logistics. New stuff. So unfortunately, last week I got delayed a little bit. So I was planning to have Accounting JS 24 either like today or like the end of last week. It took longer than I thought to make it. So that will be pushed out to the end of this week for sure, though. So look for that by Friday. And those are all the announcements that I had. So from here, I'll just go through and with each student and just see if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. So let's look at, I always try to answer questions in the order that people called in, but I may not be perfect with that. So I think the first person was, I know Carla and Sherry were first. I don't know which one, but I'll start with you, Sherry, and then I'll go to you, Carla.
Oh, Gordon, I was just going to say no. I kind of just joined on again to listen. Nothing specific yet.
Okay. Okay, cool. What have you been up to?
Since this morning, I unfortunately, some stuff that I had to do for life stuff kind of took a lot longer than I expected. So I did not even get to do any of the other stuff that I planned on today. So I have to just start that tomorrow.
Cool. Yeah, no worries. At the end, when we go off the air, I want to have a discussion about exercises because I know that those we don't have really any exercises. It'll be interesting to get your input there. So, and then if you have any questions that come up as during the hour, then just shout. I'll get to you.
Sounds good. Okay, all right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Carla, did you have any questions or anything? You're muted. Carla, you're muted.
Yeah. I don't think I was prepared really, but there's one thing that I would like to know. I didn't check all the videos and everything, but do you have some video talking about different approach to programming, like functional and object oriented? This kind of do you have any video talking about that? Which kind of approach should you take? How you do this kind of things?
Not specifically. I mean, we do look at functional programming and object-oriented programming techniques because it's unavoidable, but we don't look at it from the perspective of like, this is a course on functional programming, because I think the approach here is more general. There are a lot of resources that do take the more narrow, like we want to be very strictly follow this style. But I think it makes a little bit more sense a little bit later on. So who knows, maybe later on we might look at that, but up to where I've produced the content so far, I think it's too early to go in that direction. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, it's kind of like if you're if you're a writer and you're just kind of a generalist, but then eventually you develop a style and you have a certain style that you develop. I think that comes with having a mastery of the basics first. So I think that I'm not saying that. So right now we don't have it explicitly, but we may or may not in the future.
Yeah, nice.
So, good question.
I think would be interesting, at least to have idea, because I know you don't need to stick to one. It's more based on your project, which is the best approach. And I would like to understand better to see which one would be to judge and decide.
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as you read more code, you'll start to see different styles emerge, and you'll notice like that you like to read certain kinds of code, and it might not even be written in a specific technical style, but it might even just be written in a specific like naming convention style. So you'll start to develop that taste and preferences over time as you get more experience. I think also different languages will kind of encourage different forms. So Java, for example, kind of forces everyone to follow a super object-oriented approach, whereas something like Scheme will be very functional. And that's just because that community is like that. So with JavaScript, you have a lot of flexibility though. So you can write in a lot of different styles, which is cool, and it's cool, but also raises a lot of questions. So good question. Next I think was Erica. Erica?
My turn. No, I was just pretty much just coming to listen in. I'm still on to do MVC part 4 now, the template. And I guess the only real thing that's still kind of unclear to me is the property checked. And I guess it's because it's not a property that like we wrote in or we established. It just kind of seemed like it was there from the very beginning. And in practical JavaScript, it seems like we added in all the properties to the object. We added in like title, and we added in trying to remember, like completed or that type of thing. But with the jQuery section of it, it seems like dot property and then checked was just kind of there, and I guess I just don't see where that's coming from.
Right. Yeah, I think the difference is that the checked. Let me pull up the code. I forgot what it looked like. So I just pulled this up. So if we look at CMVC jQuery, what line was it in? Do you remember?
It's in a few lines, but right now I see it repeated in line 70. So 70. That's why I was looking at it.
I see it on, I don't know if it's as I have notes, but I see it also on mine, line 100 in toggle all.
100. Toggle all. Yeah, prop checked. Yeah, so I guess what's happening is that you're grabbing the property through the prop method. So then the important thing is that you need to understand how the prop method works. So that part is different.
So yeah, my confusion, I guess, is with the prop method. It's not some that seems different to me.
Right. So it is different because right now it's like actually it's something on the element, whereas in practical JavaScript we kind of stored it in a JavaScript object that you manipulated and created in your app.js or script.js or whatever file name we had. So it is a little bit different. But I think at the end of the day, the value from this prop has to get back into your JavaScript somehow. And so, for example, when you add a new to-do, I wonder how that's done. So create, the completed is defaulted to false, which this is just like practical JavaScript, right?
Right.
But when you toggle it, you're taking that completed property. So let's assume you just added one. It's false right now. And so when you do to-dos I completed, this will be equal to false. And you're just flipping it. So that's still like practical JavaScript.
Right.
Right. And then, so that's confusing, right? Because like here it's consistent with practical JavaScript, but then in other places it seems not to be. So let's explore that a little bit. Where is it different? So where it's different is in this case, we're looking at the checkbox right here, this thing.
Okay.
So in this case, we're not manipulating or grabbing data from a to-do object, right? Because if you're toggling a single to-do, you can just look at the to-do's checked property. But this is not linked to do at all. It's not linked to any specific to-do. It's just linked to the DOM, like what if I click it or not, right? And so we have to grab this from the element. There's no other place to get it. We're not going to pull this from an object. And so in this case, we need to just grab it from the element. So that's why even though it's called checked, well, it's actually called something different too. So this is checked, whereas this is completed, right? So what's happening is if I check this, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab whether this is checked or not and save it to is checked. And in this case, it will be true. And then I'm going to go for each through all the to-dos and set the completed property to true. And then if I uncheck it, then is checked will be false. And then I'm going to for each over all the to-dos and then set the completed property of every individual to-do to false. Does it make sense? So it's like you're checking the. So I guess the confusing part is that the check. There's a check thing, which represents this element, and then there's a completed property on each to do.
Right. I got the completed part. I think it was just the dot prop checked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Threw me for a loop. And then I had one other question since I was going through templates today.
Wait, there's one other thing. If we inspect this and look at the input.
Gordon, the checked is actually coming from the handlebars template.
What do you mean?
The checked property. I'm just saying the property is from when it's checking the property of checked, it's actually associated with the handlebars template. So I don't know if that's anything else that
not in this
wanted to explain.
Well, I think in this case it's not really. I mean, the whole template is set up by handlebars, but once the DOM is like there, you're just interacting with the DOM, right? The handlebar is the template thing. You're not manipulating the DOM through handlebars. It's just it kind of sets it up for you. So if you scroll on the bottom, the handlebar stuff is. Where is it? Index. So which part are you referring to, Sherry? Or are you referring to a specific part in here?
I think I was just looking at line 33, just as an example, in the index HTML file.
Okay, to do template if completed class. Man, this is hard to read after not reading it for a while. If completed, then checked. Oh, I see. Yeah, so what they're doing is when you render the to-dos, then it will use this template for each to-do. And so this is just rendering it to the DOM. But then once you're interacting with the page, this has already been rendered, and you just want to, like, if you click this, you still want to just grab that checked property right off that element. In this case, you're just using jQuery. It's not, you're no longer using handlebars at this point. You're interacting with the output of what handlebars has produced, if that makes sense. Does it make sense, Sherry?
Yeah, to me it does. I just wasn't sure if that was if you needed to kind of cover that in the explanation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying, like how that interacted with the handlebars template situation.
Oh, okay. So it was less. Okay.
So it was less about the completed and is checked. Like I understood that part. It was more about on the handlebars side and the template side.
I see. Did you watch part 5?
No, I watched part 4, which is.
Did it talk about handlebars in 4 or 5?
4.
4. Okay.
Rendering with templates.
I see. Huh.
And you did a good job. I just, for my own clarification, I just wanted a little bit more understanding of that specific area.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, so I think you want to think about the application in 2 steps. One is that when you first load the page, like for example, this init code where you set up all the handlebar stuff, it's only going to load up the first time you load the page, right? So
okay.
if I refresh, then init will run. After I've refreshed, so I'll just refresh right now. And so the handlebar stuff all ran, and that's why we can see what we see on the screen right now. But now that we're not now that we're just messing around with the application, handlebars is it's not doing anything now. It's just responsible for showing us the initial state after refreshing. But after that, we have to kind of dynamically change things.
So init isn't doing anything after the initial load.
Right. That's why it's called an init. Okay. So it runs once, and then you will. So it will do stuff like compile the to-dos template. So here it's actually grabbing the elements that has the ID to do template from index.html. So where is that? To do template right here. So it's grabbing that, and then it's going to turn into like a handlebars template where it can dynamically render data. So when you call handlebars compile, you then are able to throw in variables inside of your template with if statements and variables and stuff like that, like title and so on.
Okay.
And then same thing happens here. Bind events will run all this stuff here to set up all the event handlers for clicks and what happens when you double click, what happens when you hit enter and so forth. It'll listen for those events. And then this will set up the route, the URL at the top. And then that's it. So at that point, Handlebars did all the work and took the data in and then like injected the data into this to-do template. So here it looked and saw that, okay, it's checked. So I need to have the checked property here. I need to take the data from this to-do and stick it in right here. And and I need to add a class of done probably, right? Because it looks different if it is
Right.
checked. So Handlebars is doing that dynamically. It uses the same template no matter what, but the template will look different depending on what to do it is and if it's checked or not. So that's all that Handlebars does at that moment. It will work again. So there's certain parts where it will work again. Render is where Handlebars will kick in again.
Right.
So here you're rendering footer, so it's going to work again right there. Right here as well, in line 68. So this to-do template to-dos. Yeah. So it could be interesting to just go through and I think if you go through the application, you mark where Handlebars is active, then it might be more clear. Because, like for example, I haven't looked at this Handlebars specifically in a while, and so for example, I forgot that it was right here. So it could be useful to do that.
Okay, I can try that.
Yeah, and it's happening here as well. Like I didn't realize that. I forgot. And I think it's happening. My guess is it's happening in create. Oh, so in create, you think that it would happen because you need to show a new to-do to the screen, right? So you'd have to add a new to-do template, inject the data into it, and add it to the screen. So it happens in create, but it happens through the render function. So it's happening, but it's kind of borrowing another method. And so
That's what I thought.
yeah, that happens a lot. So here, whenever there's new data, then the app just re-renders it, and it'll recompile the Handlebars templates.
And that's what you say in the video. So that was not ever a question.
Okay.
That was really clear.
With the check thing, I think what can be helpful maybe is I'll just do this. So I've selected this input, and so I guess I'll call it like the select all input. That we just have access to it if I can spell. So now if we do select all input, that you can see it's that checkbox. If we wrap this in jQuery, select all input dot prop checked, we should get back true, and then I think this should work too. Something like this. So document get element by ID, it'll be toggle all. It's true as well. And then if you actually toggle it, then all these things should reverse.
Oh, I see. That's actually really cool.
But the problem is, and this is why I think it's annoying, is because if you, so I basically showed you the same thing in jQuery, not jQuery, it's almost the same. But what's annoying is if you just inspect the element, sorry, if you just inspect the element itself, you can't really see that, which is super annoying. And so you just kind of have to, it's really helpful to like kind of read code and see how it can be done. So then you don't have to like always ask yourself. But one way to do it is to kind of just hit dot, then you'll auto-complete the DOM properties, element properties, and then you might stumble upon checked and get it through there and so on. But there's so many properties that it's really hard to keep them straight. Like I can't
Right.
remember all of these. There's way too many to remember. So it's good to kind of just have an idea that you'd expect that to be there, and then you can either stumble on it through intelligent stumbling or just Google it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So, and I think the reason that they don't give you all the information right here is because there's so many properties, it would be overwhelming. And I think they're trying to display it as an element. So I wonder if you did console dir, what you would get here. Anything. This is supposed to display things as an console dir. Console. It's weird I can't console log that. I guess that'll be a mystery for another time.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
No. Not really super important to this question, so I'll move on.
But a cool mystery.
Yeah. Okay. Erica, anything else?
Not right now, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So next we got, I think it was David Amadon.
Yes, hello, thank you. I'm actually on vacation this week, so that's why I'm not at the morning meeting, so I probably won't be there all week. So I wanted to show up to this one. Thanks for reviewing the Run with Debugger. Appreciate that. So I'm just working on a render that doesn't lie. And the task isn't it isn't too specific. So, I mean, I have like a really super simple solution, but I don't want to be too simple with the solution. So I guess just looking for a little feedback on how complex of a solution you're looking for on that one.
Simple is good. I think, so for example, in the Run with Debugger solutions, you'll notice that there is a tendency for students to overcomplicate the solutions. And I think it's always better to be simple and then add stuff rather than spend a lot of time adding stuff you think might be useful. Right. It's better just to add the things you know for yourself are useful. And then, and you could also just add a comment like, I thought about doing this, just a thought, versus, because the cost of doing all the things that you think might be useful is that you might overcomplicate things. And like in one of the cases with Run with Debugger, it was actually, I think the additions made it wrong.
Right.
Yeah. so yeah, the more code you have, the more places you can go wrong. Right. And then the more assumptions you make. The principal problem and like the focal point is that render, like I forget the dictionary definition, but render is to, here, let me just pull it up. I don't remember the dictionary definition. I don't want to make something up. Render, all right. The definitions are not super clear. Well, so here's one. So to reproduce or represent by artistic or verbal means, to cause or become. But I think in programming, render has a more specific meaning. Let me see if there's a programming definition. Right, so software rendering is so this is just from Wikipedia, software rendering. Software rendering is the process of generating an image from a model.
Right.
So you generate an image from some data, essentially.
Mhm.
And so that's what I would expect to happen. Load, represent the data.
Yeah.
Is how I look at it. And right now it's doing more than that. So how can you just have a render that does what it says?
Mhm.
That's a principal concern. And so it might be quite an easy fix.
Yeah.
So I think step one is to remove the non-rendering portions from it.
Right.
And so then it's just a question of where to put that other stuff. There are a lot of places you can put it.
Mhm.
And that's where you have to use some judgment. And there's no right or wrong answer.
Okay. All right, cool. I guess I'll just think about it for another few hours and then submit. And if I need to refactor something, then I'll go from there.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like you have a pretty good idea. It sounds like you already have a solution. So I wouldn't agonize over it.
Okay.
Especially when you're on vacation.
Right. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, after that for me, I'll just be starting on library system, and that one looks quite a bit more detailed, at least at first pass. So I'll probably spend most of the rest of the week on that unless I have an epiphany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's very specific. Like
Okay.
you should, I really highly recommend writing tests, and it will drive you to the right solution.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so that's it for me.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for dropping by.
Yep.
All right, so next, I don't know. So at this point, I don't know who's next. We'll go with David.
Non-bearded David?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any questions. Just joining to listen in and get some insight from everyone's questions. And to
cool,
participate.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks.
All right, so we'll go next to Anton.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good actually. I just want to say thank you earlier for reviewing along with David, for reviewing my run with debugger thing, because I just realized that what I encoded was super messy or whatever. And when I refactored it, I came up with, from 18 lines, I came up with 4 lines of code.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that made me think.
Nice. Yeah, I think I mean, there are things I really liked about your solution. I really like how you drove the solution with tests. And that was really good. It was pretty easy to follow. But I just got the sense that it was trying to do too much, right? So, but the process and stuff looked like it was really good. It was just an issue of focusing on the specific problem rather than trying to solve everything ever. If that makes sense. Which is a very strong tendency. And I think what I always encourage people to do is like for example, like some of the problems that you came up with, were they real problems that you saw as you were using the function?
It's just an assumption, actually.
Right, exactly. So, because what I find is that as you get more, the best way to have a really good intuition for what problems are good is that you've seen them in the past. And so as you use functions yourself and you notice like, oh man, like I do this a lot and then it silently fails and doesn't give me any information, that might be a good time to throw some kind of error and so forth. And to kind of like let the use cases define your feature set rather than a lot of assumptions and overbuilding and over engineering everything just in case, right? It's like a do what is necessary versus do what might be needed kind of philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah, and then also for the code reviews, like the criteria that I'm looking and evaluating against is they're very specific. And so when you add stuff, I think it's great to add stuff, but it makes it harder to evaluate the code. So
Okay.
so for example, say that there was a bug that like you're working at a company and someone assigned you a bug and it's a very specific thing that they want. Like it's broken now, it needs to be fixed, right? I think the best way to approach that is to fix that bug only by itself in one change, right? And then if you have additional things you want to add, that's a second change, right? So then when people are looking at all this, we're losing a lot of money because this thing's broken, or like people are getting angry, upset with us, then when they're reading that change, they can just look at it and be like, okay, good. Like this is exactly what we need, nothing more. And then afterwards, then they can look at the other additions and stuff. So it's a good practice to follow elsewhere as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Did you have any questions or anything?
Actually, I'm in the process of refactoring all my solutions in the Beast code. So as of now, I don't have any questions actually. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. And what's really helpful is looking at the other solutions once you're done with yours.
Yeah.
You'll find just a lot of different ways to do things, and you'll get a sense of what's possible. I think more than, because I think in your own head, like even for me, I think I've been surprised by a lot of the submissions, and thought like, oh, that's really good. If I knew, or if I thought of that, I would have done it, right? So that can be a good exercise. And then you also see things you don't like too, and then you can, and that builds your taste and judgment too. So looking at good stuff and bad stuff, I think, is pretty helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. And good work. Good job.
Okay. That's it.
All right. So I think last is Adnan.
Yeah, I really didn't have any questions. I just to listen to other people's problems and learn from them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, where are you at with the content right now?
I'm supposed to do some documentation reading, and I'm at test-driven development 9 reduce.
Oh, right.
I was supposed to do some of the tests on my own today, but I'm doing this right now, so I'll do that later.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was pretty quick. Thanks, everyone, for joining. So everyone that called in, I guess, has had their questions answered. Let me do a quick check on the YouTube live stream and then the Facebook group, and then I guess we'll call it a day. So I'm checking YouTube right now. Nothing there. I'm gonna check Facebook. Oh, thanks to those of you that responded to Dean's question about whether he was ready to move beyond practical JavaScript. So I know like Peter helped out with that, and Erica, and a couple other students. So thanks for that. I didn't really have anything to add, so because I think you all covered and answered it better than I would. So nothing there. All right, so I guess that's it. So those of you that are watching the live stream and in the Hangout, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate your time, and hope to see you next week at the same time. So if you have any questions, get them ready for next week. And last thing is, if you want to stick around for an informal off-the-air chat, then call in or just stay in the Hangout if you're already here, and we'll chat for 20, 30 minutes or whatever. All right, so thanks again, everyone, and see you next week.